Is Australia's leadership doing what's best for the nation? Right now, the big question on a lot of people's minds is whether our leaders are genuinely steering the country in the right direction, not just for today, but for the years ahead. If you ask the average Australian what's keeping them awake at night, the answer is clear: the cost of living. From groceries to rent and mortgages, household budgets are under serious pressure. Housing affordability is the next biggest headache. For many, buying a home feels like a distant dream, and rents are rising faster than pay packets. Poll after poll shows these two issues are the top priorities. After that, people talk about healthcare, jobs, and the wider economy. Climate change, crime, and immigration also rank, but the day-to-day reality of bills and housing stress dominates. So, is the government focused on those issues? The Albanese government has made some moves: fee-free TAFE, cheaper childcare, energy bill relief, and the Housing Australia Future Fund. On paper, these are long-term fixes, but for many Australians, it feels like the relief hasn't landed fast enough. Renters still face skyrocketing prices, and mortgage holders are feeling the pain of higher interest rates. That's why a lot of people say, yes, the government might be thinking long-term, but what about right now? Many Australians are concerned about mass immigration to the country and can see that importing money into the country is just a means to cloak a weak GDP. Over 30% of the nation's current residents were born overseas. Many Australians are struggling to get anywhere and are now in competition with immigrants hungry to take advantage of the great nation of Australia. Many Australians don't feel safe in their own homes as teen crime and gang-related crime increases daily. On climate, the government has shifted gears compared to the past decade. Australia now has a legislated target to cut emissions by 43% by 2030, and there's real investment in renewables. Meanwhile, nations like China, India, and the United States have backed out or toned down their net zero targets. Australia emits less than 1% of global emissions. Public opinion reflects that split. Most Australians want more action, but many are also cautious about higher costs in the short term and the reliability of green energy. Indigenous affairs tell a different story. The failed voice referendum in 2023 was meant to be a nation-building moment. Instead, it left the country divided and it dented trust in the government's judgment. Some credit Albanese for taking a principled stand, but many Australians now want to see practical steps, not symbolic battles. National security is another piece of the puzzle. The AUKUS submarine deal is framed as a long-term investment in protecting Australia. Strategically, it makes sense, but the enormous price tag has left voters divided. Only a minority think the subs are worth the cost, yet there's broad agreement that the government is right to manage China carefully and keep alliances strong whilst ruffling the feathers of our biggest allies. That brings us to Anthony Albanese himself. He came in with a reputation as a steady hand, a contrast to the chaos of previous years. People see him as trustworthy and sincere, but less decisive. His approval ratings peaked in the honeymoon period, fell sharply during the voice debate and the cost of living crisis, and only recently recovered after Labor's re-election. Analysts describe him as cautious, sometimes too cautious, but also pragmatic. He's not the kind of leader who dominates the room with grand visions, more a manager trying to hold the ship steady despite having no experience in navigation. So, are Australia's leaders doing what's best for the country? The answer depends on your lens. On climate, national security and the economy, the government has set out a costly long-term plan. But when people open their wallets or try to rent a home, the short-term reality feels grim. And that's where trust starts to fray. If Albanese can bridge that gap, pairing long-term policy with faster, tangible relief, history may judge him as a leader who did what was best for Australia. If not, he risks being remembered as a steady figure who fell short when Australians needed bold action the most. And the worst Prime Minister in Australian history.